are live from the Mississippi Trade Mart for 100 years of faith, family, and farm bureau. Joining us now in the Element Wealth studios at the Mississippi Trade Mart is Sally Doty, the director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, a.k.a. BEAM. That is a mouthful.
It is, but BEAM is very easy.
Is.
We went for the acronym.
I got it.
Yes.
Well, of course, having been in the IT industry my whole life, it's just nothing but alphabet soup acronyms.
I can do a whole sentence now with only acronyms. It's the craziest thing.
That's awesome. All right, so a little bit about the history of how this organization that you direct, how did it come about?
So BEAM was created during the last legislative session. There is a tremendous amount of federal funding that's going to be coming down over the next few years, probably 3 to 5 years, and we need a single source of contact in Mississippi to handle all that money that's coming down and to make some decisions and policy decisions about where we want to direct that funding. So the bill was passed and signed into law by the governor, Tate Reeves, in April, and we began work July 1. Now, also what's important, I believe, is to know that we've had some history. It's not that Mississippi didn't have a broadband office at all, but I was over at the public utilities staff, and we did work on broadband expansion at that office. And
I think it's safe to say, is it not, Sally, that maybe the catalyst for this was the legislation signed into law, 3 sessions ago that allowed the electric cooperatives to provide internet services?
So the federal government had another tranche of money that was coming down to states through the Rural Development Opportunity
USDA,
Fund,
was it not?
RDOF, RDOF funding, and so the co-ops wanted to be able to participate in that. We knew that was coming. We didn't want Mississippi to miss out on it, and so yes, there was legislation to allow the co-ops to get into the business because they did not have that authority at the time. And I was actually chair of the Energy Committee in the Senate at that time and handled that bill and the committee and on the floor, and it was a great piece of legislation, I think. But I will tell you, a lot of the co-ops, we had that legislation. Several were going to get into the business. Some were a bit on the fence. And really in 2020, when Mississippi received, big CARES Act funding, that we had to appropriate. Well, the legislature made that determination to put $75 million in broadband expansion. And we were really one of the first states to do that. It didn't, the rules were kind of fuzzy. I think that was kind of all on the,
even the whether or not it qualified,
right? Whether or not it qualified at all. But we said, hey, that's what we need to use it for. And we kind of stepped out there after we did. Some other states did as well. It had some pretty tight deadlines to get your infrastructure out, and we did it. So that $75 million from CARES Act, I mean, it's up. It's all on the power pole, or it's in the ground. It's completed. And really, it was a $150 million. We leveraged it up with matching, so it was really a $150 investment in the state. Yeah.
So matching state funds that went along with the federal funds, or
the provider had to match that.
They had to match it to receive the grant.
Match it to receive the grant.
I understand. Yeah. And Mississippi is not one where most of the population is concentrated in urban population centers, right? We're very
scattered out,
sparsely populated, right? And so which just essentially kind of intensifies the challenge, I think is a way to say it.
It makes it quite a challenge. I always say that Mississippi is kind of like we've got a big jigsaw puzzle, and we're putting all the pieces together. And part of that is the reason I wanted to visit with you today, is because we want Mississippians to help us put together a broadband map for Mississippi. And we have a new website that is out. It is broadbandms.com. broadbandms.com. You can go to that, and it will run 3 speed tests automatically, and then it goes through a series of 5 or 10 questions while that speed test is running. And so we're trying to gather a little bit of information so we can have a true picture of internet service in Mississippi.
Yeah.
If you do not have any service, we have a telephone number that you can call. And I'm sure that your folks will tweet that out for me. But the number is 601-439-2535. And you don't get a real person on that. It's a voice. But we would love for you to leave your address. And we don't need your name. We just need your address. and need you to say, I do not have service, or I have unusable service, or only satellite service, or whatever.
So I'm on the site right now, and the first thing you see on the splash page is a button to conduct a test, a speed test.
Right.
There are lots of tools out there that provide that. And so is this being used as input into you guys' planning as well?
All of this information is coming to we've been through the RFP process. We have a contractor that's helping us with our mapping.
Sure.
And so all of that is driven to create our Mississippi map. There is an FCC map, a new FCC map that came out on November 18th. And you can go to it as well if you would like and look at your location. You can put your address in. It shows that all of Mississippi is 100% covered.
The FCC shows that?
The FCC map does, because it used they included Starlink, which.
Well, technically, it is covered.
But Starlink is not available. We all did it in my office.
Okay.
We all looked at it. And one of the guys in my office, he said, well, I've tried to get Starlink, and it's unavailable for my location. So he filed a challenge. You can file an individual challenge on the FCC map if you would like. We think that process might be kind of bulky and maybe not,
no.
Thousands,
government bureaucracy at the federal level.
So you might want to go look at the federal map if you want to, but we knew it was not going to quite be a true picture. So we're creating our own Mississippi map because we're going to challenge that federal map. And our first deadline for challenge is January 13th. So we're going to use other data in addition to this website data that we're collecting. We've got a lot of other data we're looking at and working with providers and E911 data and different things. So we're putting it all together.
So other than they're publishing false information, is there something else that's important about that? Funding?
Yes, the funding is what's really important about that, because Mississippi is going to participate in a program which is called BEAD. All states are getting money from BEAD, which was a grant program under the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. It's $42.5 billion, I believe, that is going to be allocated among the states, and it's going to be allocated according to your unserved and underserved locations. So that's why it's so important for us to know what those locations are. So this data that we're collecting on our Mississippi map, just from individuals around the state, is very important to us. It's not the only thing we will use, but it's very important. So we really encourage everyone to go take that test, and if you would take it maybe once a day for a week or so, or take it 5 to 7 times. If you could take it at different times of the day, so we get kind of a true picture of the service you're getting, because what you get in the morning might be different than when everybody's home at night, watching a movie, playing games, whatever. So if you could take it at some different times, and if you just don't have service at all, call that phone number and just let us know.
Broadband.ms 601-439-2535 is the number.
Yes, that is the number. You can text that number too. You can text internet to it, or text help or whatever. You can text it as well, and it'll say, it'll give you some prompts to give the information.
All right, so since you've been in this role, give us an update. How's that been going? How are we doing as far as building out?
We are currently administering one $32 million grant fund from the feds. We are about to begin construction on it. And when I say we, it's not me, it's not our office.
Sure.
It is providers throughout the state. And I think with that program, there are about 8 different providers that are participating in that. And that is just with federal funding. Our providers across the state are building out with private dollars all day, every day.
Right.
But this is an interesting time when we have an influx of federal dollars, kind of a one-time influx of federal dollars, kind of like they did with electricity back in the 20s and the 30s. So this is our build-out for broadband infrastructure, and it is focused on fiber.
And this is available to other traditional carriers as well, right? Not just the electric co-ops.
Oh, yes, all carriers. And we talk to all of them on a regular basis and expect all of them to participate in this upcoming funding. So it's moving a little bit slower than I had hoped it would. And as it's any time you're working with federal dollars, there are a lot of hoops you got to jump through.
Sure.
And so we are awaiting approval to stand up a grant program of $162 million. That'll be really the first one that we'll do in our new office.
Okay.
So we hope cross our fingers, maybe first of the year we'll get approval for that, and then we'll stand up that grant program and get that out the door just as soon as we can.
And we got to go here, but we got 24 electric co-ops in the state, is it right?
20, I thought 25. 24,
okay,
25.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
17 are building out.
Okay.
And of that, I think 4 have totally completed their build out.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
So folks are getting high-speed broadband internet that didn't have it before. That's the main point.
Very much so, yes.
Broadband.ms, 601-439-2535. Sally Doty, the director of BEAM, has been our guest here on Middays. Thanks for coming on, Sally.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
to see
you very much.
We're stepping aside for